into this edition of Upfront. I'm Fallon Wagner. Today we're joined by Councillor Liz Iwascu, and we're talking about Lethbridge's Twin Cities. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks very much for having me.
So we're in a room today that a lot of the public might not know about. Why don't you introduce where we are today? We are, in fact, at City Hall.
We're in City Hall, and we're just across from the Mayor's office in what's called the Saint Laurent room. And it was a room that we dedicated to the city of Saint Laurent, which is our twin city. And they have a room named for Lethbridge in their library. We have art. All the art in here came from Saint Laurent, and this is where we meet dignitaries and have little meetings that are outside the norm, that are more casual. It's a really nice room, actually. It's comfortable.
It is. It's beautiful, and the art is also very special in this room.
It's beautiful. There's actually the one right behind me. I would love to steal when I go. I mean, I know I can't, but the one with the kids in the snowsuits is my favorite. Yeah. There's some fabulous art in this room, and all of it came from Saint Laurent. And in turn, we have given them a piece of art every year to back to them that they have in the room in the library.
So Saint Laurent being Lethbridge's twin city, how does that relationship work?
Well, back in 1967, the Quebec government decided that they wanted to build relationships with cities in the east, and so or in the west. So they decided that they would take cities from Quebec and team them up with cities from the west. And we were teamed up with Saint Laurent. I'm not sure how they chose the different cities, but there were 48 different pairs of cities that were put together in an attempt to build some understanding between the English and the French, between west and east. And because it was a centennial year, it seemed like a good time to do it. And now here we are 50 years later. As far as we know, we're the only pair of cities that still do this. So that makes it pretty significant for us. I'm proud of the fact that we've kept it going. I don't think we've exchanged people every single year of the 50 years. We may have skipped a year here or there, especially in the 90s when there was no money for anything. But it has been a consistent relationship, and one that we're very proud of.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the city and what Saint Laurent has to offer?
Saint Laurent has a population of 100,000, almost exactly the same as ours, but they are a bedroom city of Montreal, what they call a borough. So they used to be a separate city unto themselves, and a number of years ago Montreal annexed all the surrounding cities. So it now is a borough, which means it has its own city council with 4 councillors and a mayor, but one of them sits on the Montreal council as well, so that they have input into the greater Montreal area. It's a beautiful place. They have a lot of industrial. The Bombardier plant is there. Saint Laurent has something like 148 different nationalities living there. Most of the people speak French and English, but the similarities between them and us are much more than the differences, which is interesting. And I think that's what the project wanted to point out when they started off.
Absolutely. You mentioned that the relationship has been significant for 50 years now. What do you think that says about these two cities and what it means to each of them to have this twin city relationship?
Well, I'm proud of the fact that the mayors and councillors of the day decided that this was worth the effort and the cost to keep this going, because as I said, 47 other pairs of communities dropped away and let it go. So to keep it going for 50 years is quite an accomplishment, I think. Having a twin city, more than anything, it just gives you a different view of the world. The first time I went to Saint Laurent, I thought things would be so different than here, and there's, as I said, there's more similarities than there is differences.
How is the relationship between the two cities commemorated?
Well, each year we send a group of citizens from Lethbridge to Saint Laurent, and Saint Laurent sends a group of citizens from them to here. And one year it's teenagers, and another year it's seniors, and we've done that back and forth. As I said, probably for 48 or of the 50 years. And anyone who wants to go just has to contact City Hall and get their name on the list. And whenever we have an exchange of citizens, at least 1 or 2 members of council generally go with them. Sometimes the mayor goes. And this year, because it's the 50th anniversary, it's a pretty big deal, we're going to exchange councils. So 3 members of their council plus their mayor are coming here, and 3 members of our council plus the mayor are going there, which will be, and we're having big festivities when we get to each place. It's going to be, it's going to be fun.
That's pretty exciting.
It is.
After the break, we'll be talking more about Lethbridge's Twin Cities. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Upfront. We're still talking about Lethbridge's Twin City. Councillor Iwascu joins us, and we're going to be talking throughout the show about the relationship. Now, we were talking about, just before the break, about art and different things that are used to commemorate the relationship between the two cities, and there's going to be a fairly large piece of art installed in our city. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I'd love to. Yeah, we have exchanged a piece of art every year that we've done the exchange, but this year, to commemorate the centennial, we got our heads together and said, let's do something bigger. Let's do a statue. And to make it really interesting, we decided that we would hire a local artist to make a piece of art to go in a public place in Saint Laurent, and Saint Laurent is doing the same thing. And we had people from both places on the panels deciding what piece of art to choose. Ours will go just Japanese Gardens, closer to Mayor McGrath Drive. There's a group of trees. That's where ours will go from them. And ours to them is going in a park beside a metro station in Saint Laurent. But it's a fascinating idea that we would, and the artist went to the other places. So an Alberta artist went to Saint Laurent and looked around and came up with a concept to fit in their place. And it will be there forever, and I think that makes it really spectacular.
And when will the art officially be unveiled?
Well, when the Saint Laurent people come here in July, we're going to have a ceremony, and we will have a small, what they call a maquette. It's a small rendering of the actual piece of art, and we'll have that to show people and show where it's going to go, but the actual piece of art won't be installed until 2018.
Okay, that's exciting to watch out for. And so this year, is there going to be a community celebration to note the significance of this relationship?
There's going to be a couple of things going on. So Nikayuko is having their 50th anniversary as well. So on the day that they celebrate their 50th anniversary, we will have the Saint Laurent people here with us, and we'll celebrate that with them. We'll show where the art is going to go, which is close to the Japanese Gardens. The next day, we're going to have a party in Galt Gardens, Culture Craze, we're calling it, and there's going to be all sorts of different ethnicities there. There's going to be all sorts of different food. There's going to be different activities. On that day, we have partners, Galt Gardens, the Galt Museum, Fort Whoop-Up, Nikayuko, and Southern Alberta Art Gallery are our 4 partners in this, and there will be free transit between all of those facilities and free admission to each of those facilities on that day. So it's a pretty spectacular thing we got set up here, and it's our biggest celebration for Canada's 150th.
Absolutely, that's so great that it all ties in together like that. And have all of the councillors that are on St. Laurent's current council, have they been to Lethbridge before, or will some of them be visiting for the first time?
No, they've all been here at least once. They have 4 councillors and a mayor, and each one of them has been here at least once. And for us going back there, Jeff Carlson is going, Bridget Mearns is going, and the mayor and I, and we've all been before.
So exciting.
It is.
Right after the break, we'll be talking more about Lethbridge's Twin City. Welcome back to Upfront. Just before the break, we were talking about Lethbridge's Twin City and some of the celebrations that are happening this year to commemorate the 50th year. And there's going to be something called a reunion barbecue happening. What will that entail?
That's right. So on the Sunday at the Galt Museum, we're having a big barbecue bringing together past participants. So anyone who's been to the Saint Laurent Exchange before from Lethbridge, we're bringing them all together. We've done a video about the exchange, and that'll be shown. And past participants will come and just get to reconnect with each other and meet some for the first time. So Friday is the celebration at Japanese Gardens, Saturday is at Galt Gardens, and Sunday, those 2 are public events. Sunday will be a barbecue just for the past participants and City Council.
That's so cool. That's such an interesting way to get together, and I'm sure everyone has stories from their experiences, so I'm sure that'll be a really neat gathering.
Well, and I'm glad that it came together. I have to give kudos to Kristen Schindel, who is our organizer, because they did not keep very good records back in the day, so for her to track down people, it was hard work for her, and she's worked diligently and pulled this off, and I think, you know, when it's all over, she'll be the one we'll be thanking.
Absolutely. And we've talked about the exchanges, for example, or some of the many benefits of having a twin city. But what are some of the other benefits that this relationship has that you can pinpoint?
Well, just an awareness that Saint Laurent knows where Lethbridge is and who Lethbridge is, and the same for us going back, that when something happens in Montreal, I think we pay attention a little bit more now because of Saint Laurent, and the same for them coming back this way. As I said, you expect there to be so many differences, but there's more similarities than not, but the differences teach you some things. In Quebec, they have party politics on the municipal level, whereas we don't here. Here, the municipal government act says you will run as an independent and you can't go in blocks, whereas there there, that's how it's done. So their council all comes from a group of people who think similarly and vote in sync with each other. Here, there's 9 of us, and we think differently, and there tends to be a bit of a free-for-all, and it can get interesting, but democracy is supposed to be messy. So I prefer our way of doing it, for sure, but it's interesting to see how things are done elsewhere.
And what has your personal experience been visiting the city and exploring it yourself?
Well, you know, I took French in elementary school and in junior high, and I didn't think I could speak it, but I found out I can read a menu. I mean, I can't speak it very well because they go way too fast, but I'm amazed at how much French I remember from my school days, and I think that's something that other people notice as well. And just that people are so the same wherever you go. I've traveled all over the world, and people are really not that different. And that's my favorite thing to keep pointing out to people. To, you know, don't expect that we're so special. People are the same all over the world. And whenever you do an exchange like this, that's the thing that comes to the forefront, I think. To watch the kids sitting with each other and texting, and, you know, whatever the rage of the day is, the kids are all in it together, and, you know, we're just not that different.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like how that's put. And how can residents of Lethbridge utilize the relationship between Saint Laurent and Lethbridge?
I would encourage anybody in Lethbridge who's between the ages of 14 and 16 or a senior over 55, if you're interested in taking part of the exchange, please come down to City Hall. We'll tell you what you need to do and be part of this. It's really something. There are people who took part in this years ago who have stayed in touch with the people they stayed with, and it's a brilliant relationship.
Absolutely. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but maybe you can explain how the exchange works for students and seniors.
So what happens is they come here, I think it's 7 days altogether, so 2 days traveling and 5 days actually there. So kids from Saint Laurent will come here and stay in the home of the Lethbridge kids, and same going back, so they bill at each other's kids is how it works. And there's always adult supervision. The counselors go along, Kristen comes along, and they will have someone from their side who's a coordinator. So the kids are well taken care of and supervised, and we tend to travel around in buses, and we just sort of get things organized. But it doesn't cost anything that I'm aware of. There's no cost involved because they stay with families, and spending money maybe, but the meals are taken care of. We pay for them when they're here. They pay for us when we're there. And it's a unique opportunity, and maybe not enough people know about it, so I'd like more people to come forward. I'd love there to be a long waiting list. That'd be great.
You mentioned that if anyone is interested, to come down to City Hall?
Come down to City Hall and we'll get you started.
Perfect. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about with Lethbridge's Twin City? Off camera, we were mentioning that you had a story that that you wanted to share.
Well, I was saying that I'm the only person in this room who was around in 1967, but in 1967, I was 12 and we had just moved to Edmonton, and my mom had a terrible sense of direction, and she lost the car in the parking lot of a mall in Edmonton. So my dad put a little flag on the end of the antenna and said, "Now you'll be okay." The next week, the Canadian government sent out little centennial flags to everyone in the country, and the next time my mom came to the mall, she came out and every car had a flag on it. I love that story. I still have the 67 flag.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's great. That's so cool. What a great relationship it's been with these two cities over the years.
It's been wonderful, and you know, thanks to their people and ours who've made the effort to keep it going, it's been well worth it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Upfront.